Hey guys, this is Ricky Rod. Before we get started with Paul's episode, I wanted to go over two things real quick. Number one, I wanted to thank everyone for their support. Me and Jimmy have received some really positive messages, and just want to let you know it means a ton to us, and we really appreciate it. It's been very encouraging, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as the first one, and really the rest of the season. And then for number two here, I wanted to go over some statistics that I thought were important to know before you listen to Paul's story and how he approaches ministry. Now, I'm not an expert at this. However, I did think about going into ministry in my early 20s, in my late teens. And I remember looking up these statistics back then thinking, Lord, that does not look good. So here are the statistics. Basically, the average tenure, you can Google this, the average tenure of a pastor in church, okay? Barna, I think, has it around 4 years. That's the general number. So 4 years is the average amount of time a pastor is at a church. Then if you read on a little bit more into some articles, some experts, quote-unquote experts, claim it's more around 8 years. From my personal experience, and we've only been at a handful of churches that have changed out pastors, I've seen them last less than 8 years. I've seen them last 3 years. So anyway, the other surprising statistic are the tenure with student pastors or youth pastors, youth ministers. And that number is less than 2 years. That's crazy, right? Less than 2 years. So keep those statistics in the back of your mind while you listen to this podcast episode. Love you guys. Peace out.
Bomb house, got that sound that can't be beat. Bomb house, you can feel it in your feet. This is bomb house. I know you feel that heat. This is bomb house. I know you feel that heat. Evala como Matias Perez, go to the rest. Beat it so loud that I know you feel it.
All right, let's go. Hey everybody, welcome to the Bomb House.
What's up?
What's up, Jimbo? How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man.
We got somebody pretty cool with us today. I'd like to introduce Paul Cummings. Say hey, Paul.
I am the oldest person in the room. You realize that,
Wait,
right?
really? I thought we were like close to the same age.
I'm super old.
No.
Y'all come to my funeral.
I'm like low 40s.
I am 45 in a month.
What?
Yes, I know.
So you are older than me.
I'm like the
This
Clint
is one of the
Eastwood
first
the group.
times I've been the young guy in the room.
Dude,
This is
I know.
great.
In a long
You
time.
look young too. I feel like a satchel. I feel like a
So
old
Paul-
saddlebag.
So Paul Satchel
Yes.
Cummings is a pastor, right? Where do
Yes,
you
sir.
pastor?
I am a pastor, one of the pastors on staff over at Corinth Church in Hickory.
Okay. And this is awesome because you're going to be the first guest pastor on our podcast.
I can't wait for Joel Osteen next week.
Yeah, I can tell you now that's never going to happen
Oh man, dang!
because his hair would scare me. But
His teeth would scare me. but it's just
maybe,
me.
or maybe his wife. I
Yes,
don't know.
her too.
There's something
Her too.
there that would scare me, but I can tell you now.
Anyway, you're from Corinth Church in Hickory, North Carolina.
Hickory-
We can't keep talking about Joel. Come on, now, let's go.
But
I got a million of these. Okay, sorry.
the reason I wanted you to be the first pastor or guest on our podcast was we live in a very interesting area to pastor, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely.
And not that I've ever pastored in this area, but I have watched hotshot young guys come in here with their hair on fire for a couple of years and then run out of town as fast as they came in. Mm-hmm. Bible thump, boom. But how many years have you been in Hickory?
I'll be at Corinth 18 years here in a couple months.
And what's your role currently?
Right now, I am pastor to students. I am the worship leader, and I'm the pastor for the contemporary worship side of the church. We have 3 worship services. One is like a blended, like acoustic-y, and then we have at 11 o'clock we have a full contemporary service, electric guitars, drums, and all that, and a very traditional service.
And they meet at the same time,
Same
right?
time, just 2 different parts of our campus.
Wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
Just ballpark. I don't care. I really don't care about numbers per se, but I do want to have an idea what kind of number. I want our audience to know how many people maybe average on a Sunday.
I'd say like 400.
Awesome. So, is that everything combined?
Everything combines like 1,000.
Okay.
We're like
Okay.
400-ish.
Okay. So, man, like that's one of the most unique setups I think I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like, how did you guys, like, were you brought into the church to help transition them into the contemporary, the more modern style service? Was that your job?
That was my job. And so
That's crazy.
So part of it too, and Jimmy, you chime in on this, but I think where we are in the Bible Belt, there was a curve, and there was a place where there was a trend out of traditional style worship into contemporary worship.
Yep.
And I would say that curve was somewhere back in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
churches either kind of had the forefront, existing churches had the foreknowledge, or at least the guidance to go, we want to at least be in that curve, maybe not ahead of it, but be
Yep.
in it. And so churches that did now are kind of like us, and they made the commitment, and here we are, years later.
And you survived, more than survived.
Right. And then there was other churches that kicking and screaming did not want to do it,
Well,
but the culture kind of dictated that they needed to.
It's
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
you said that. We have a very sizable church downtown Morganton that I think the original church, before they took over the church, got down to like less than 60 people.
Right.
And I think the Southern Baptist Association was like, okay, y'all need a building? Here we go. Y'all connect with these old people. And I mean, for y'all that are not church people, or are in this North Carolina area, or you're looking for churches, I really want to point out that how unique Paul is in what he does. And I'll tell you why. We have seen, how many churches do you think are within a block of this studio right
Lord.
now? I can't count.
Yeah.
The number is huge. There are churches everywhere.
Yeah.
And I mean everywhere. And it's just a big part of our culture here. And having grown up in it most of my life, I've seen some good, I've seen some bad. Honestly, I think I've seen mostly bad. And I hate to be that way. Some of the best ministers I've seen come into this area, they just don't stay all the time. And it's hard. Why do you think pastors struggle staying in this area?
I think, and like I said, Jimmy, chime in on this too as well. I think it has a whole lot to do with understanding your calling versus your ambition.
Yeah.
And I think those two of those things can be completely in opposition to one
Like
another.
ambition, like numbers.
Well, and I mean,
Maybe.
it goes right back to when Jesus says in Matthew, if anyone wants to be my disciple, they must set aside their selfish ambition, shoulder their cross, and follow me. And so I always ask the question, I'm like, why is it that pastors always leave churches for bigger churches and more money?
Oh, yeah.
Like, could it be possible that Jesus would be calling you to a smaller church for less money?
Oh, boy.
But then the other part is, I think
I love that.
I am in a very, and you got it awesome because you're working with your dad.
Yeah.
But I'm in an awesome situation where I feel like I've just been loved.
Yeah, you have a very good, Bob, right?
Right.
Like you have a good relationship with him, right?
Absolutely. We have, he has just loved me when I've done
He's
something
awesome. Every time I've
boneheaded.
talked to
Yeah,
him.
when I've done something boneheaded, he's given me grace. He's, and I think so often, I know I'm a little bit different in that I do more than just youth ministry, but I think like youth ministry is a good example. Churches tend to look at youth ministers as, well, they're a dime a dozen.
They have purely become expendable nowadays.
Yeah, this one doesn't work out. We'll just toss them out and get another one.
Yeah, it's not a focus. I don't see that as a focus anymore at all these days. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think it's both and. I think some people think I want to be the next whoever, but I can't just go jump into the pulpit, so let me pay my dues as a youth pastor.
Right.
And then I'm going to hop over to this next thing.
Right. I love the whole, you've got to marry what you've actually been called to, and then temper your ambition with that. That the first thing has to be the call, and without getting too preachy into it.
Go ahead, man. Preach it.
student ministry is vitally and equally as important as adult ministry.
Well,
you
I
know?
can tell you the effect. I had pastors that were awesome growing up. Most of my student pastors, I think one of my old student pastors attends your church, Paul, Janie and Gary Lambert. And these were people that cared. These were people that cared and poured into me. And, I saw it. Listen, when you're around a bunch of teenagers, you're going to see some bad stuff. It is what it is. You hear the horror stories and all that stuff. But the bottom line is, like, musically, if I did not have what I had growing up, I don't think I would be here today.
Yeah.
I think spiritually, things have changed for me over the years. Growing up in an overly Pentecostal environment, what kind of church environment did you grow up in, Paul?
Oh my gosh,
Baptist-costal, maybe?
Yes, I grew up in a tug of war between a incredibly lukewarm Baptist church and then like the "Dear God, don't you come in here with no earrings and tattoos" Baptist church. Like between the two, one didn't care and the other was like cared too much, and so
and that I know he's joking about it, but that still exists here. That absolutely still exists today in this culture. I think people watch TV and watch Elevation, or they'll watch New Spring, or they'll watch whatever's happening, and just think that doesn't exist. But guess what? Very much it does exist.
For sure, especially around here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's why I wanted you to come and talk to us. But you also do some music, don't you?
Yes, sir.
When did you start songwriting?
Oh man, probably early 90s when I was in college and in seminary, and I wrote just some real trashy stuff.
I think the first band me and you connected on was King's X.
Yes, absolutely.
Just real trashy stuff.
Trashy stuff. Trashy. Anytime you can substitute
trashy,
the name
like
of your
about-
girlfriend for Jesus,
Was it
and
like-
the song still works,
Was it like songs about hot chicks? Is that what you mean?
No,
by
no,
trashy?
they were songs about Jesus, but they were just, I think Jesus just kind of ran and hid when I was singing them. So they were not good.
Oh,
So.
boy.
Hey, honestly, I wanted to be a Christian rapper. I'm being totally
In the
serious
90s?
with you. 1993, I had
Dude,
a rap
you would have
name
been
and
so
everything.
ahead of the curve.
Yeah, but I was awful. So let's be glad that that didn't work.
So how many years? I don't even know how many years ago we met.
It's been more than 10.
Yeah, it's been more than 10 for sure. And we connected musically on some really cool levels.
Absolutely.
I remember that. And I remember personally, I think we recorded your first project in the basement of my parents' house.
Yes, we did.
Oh.
For real.
Occasionally, your dad would come down and say, "Ricky,
And yeah, that is,
who is this white man down here?"
he would. And my dad loves Paul, by the way.
Praise God.
loves
I'm
Paul.
glad I'm on his good side.
Hey, listen, he preached to me. He preaches to me about once a week.
I
It's
get
awesome.
a call from your dad every once in a while.
I love it, man. Like if I didn't have that in my life, it would be lacking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think we all need that voice, and he is that voice for me. But so I think, Paul, when I first met you, how many songs had written? You've written like a ton.
You
And you still write.
Yeah, you caught me on like having just had a glut of stuff that I'd never gotten around to.
Yeah.
And the good and bad thing is we didn't really like edit it too much. We
Yeah,
just
we
threw
just
it
did it.
all. We just threw it all out there.
Yeah, we just did it. And I remember
I sold dozens of that
you
CD.
were, hey man, you were really the precursor for me at realizing that there are people out there that write a lot of songs, that just write songs, and you were writing the songs for the church.
Yeah,
a lot,
for sure.
don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. I that was kind of I don't know when that happened. Somewhere in the 90s when Caedmon's Call, remember, like
Yeah.
all stuff like
Boy,
that.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
just wanted that dude, especially the Baptist church was just enamored. Never
Acoustic, yeah.
had
It
anybody
was
play
super
acoustic guitar.
for y'all that don't know. It was acoustic driven, sort of
Yeah.
like
It was the
Poppy.
precursor to today's like pop folk.
yes,
You know what
yes,
I mean?
exactly.
They,
So-
they were using bells
Dude,
before
they
bells
were
they were hipsters
They
of bells.
were the junk back in the day.
And
I
so
remember that.
you would go in, people had this idea they were going to have a Christian coffee house, and so I kind of go in and I had this set of, you're going to play your Matchbox 20 song.
Christian
Yeah.
coffee
And
houses
then you're going
did
to play
exist.
like some
Yes.
other song, and then you might have a couple of my own originals, but that just wasn't who I was. I grew up with all that 80s hair metal music, King's X, everything.
Yep.
And I was kind of like, this acoustic guitar is great, but this is
Yeah,
not
we don't
really
hide. We
what I
don't
wanna
hide
do.
any guitars on your records.
No.
right?
And so that's the other thing that I had not heard at that point was I wanted to do praise and worship that had some guts to it. I would use a different word, but this is a Christian.
Yeah,
I'm holding them in front of me right
We did
now.
have a podcast about language, right? We did
sure.
talk about that, but I think
Beefy
there's two,
praise and worship.
There's two. I think there's two unique things about the way you approach your songs, and something I've always respected was your aspiration was never to be like the next Chris Tomlin or anything like that. I think you knew sonically what you wanted to do, and I think every project we've done since then, we've always sat down and discussed, hey, this is sort of what we're going for, and I think that's super cool. Like, you're not trying to be Chris Tomlin. You're not trying to go out there and to pursue that path. You wrote songs for your youth, right? For your kids, and you wrote it for your church. And let me motivate songwriters out there, especially if you're in the worship world. Don't write for Nashville, right? Don't.
Yeah, they got enough writers.
Yeah, they got a glutton of that. If you want to serve as a songwriter, serve for your church, right?
Yeah,
write songs for your church.
Right on.
Like write things that connect, and if something happens, awesome.
Yeah.
But that's honestly where things in the industry sort of get skewed.
Well, and
I think.
maybe this adds a little bit to that. Keep this in mind. Like, a recent study actually showed that most of the what we call worship songs
Yeah.
that are anywhere on radio that are done from Nashville out are typically written by an average of 18 of the same people.
Yep.
So writing for Nashville may not, I'm not trying to crush dreams,
Yeah.
but you will get a lot more impact
Yep.
from your words for people who actually see
Yep.
you growing.
Yep.
Well, and not if you let's create an analogy. I mean, like, if you're trying to get and we'll be blatant. I mean, like, we want to get the message of Jesus Christ out, and we want to do it with music undergirding it, and we also want to make it vertical. So, but if you're going to try to,
And what he means by vertical, for my people that don't.
oh yeah,
know,
true. Sorry.
Explain vertical real fast.
Vertical is it's not person to person. It's straight person to God. It's,
Right.
We're not trying to elevate anything that we do. We want to elevate the name of Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead. Go
sorry,
ahead.
I went into
Yep.
Christianese there.
Yep.
But I
It's
mean,
okay.
if you're trying to do the Nashville thing, you're trying to jam something that you might be doing that might be a mile wide into a mobile home sized door.
Yep.
You're trying to fit something that's huge into this very tiny thing. Whereas I don't think Jesus is ever asking anybody to be less than what he has called them to be. And that certainly would be if we're trying to adapt what we're going to do to somebody else's human standards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I wouldn't say that I never hoped that I would be on the radio or anything like that, but it certainly became really obvious early on that I wasn't going to be, because I was just kind of like, I can't write that music.
Yeah.
And
Like singers, if you don't sound a certain way in the Christian industry, especially in the worship world, it's not gonna fly.
Like, if you're 21 and trying to go after that, and then you realize that your voice is changing and going lower and lower.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's
okay,
gonna knock you out.
I'm just always going to pull examples from my past, but even in my old band, 7 Miles, which was regionally, I would consider it a successful band, but we were told the same thing. They didn't like the vocals and blah blah blah. I had to sound a certain way, and our vocalist Benton just literally didn't give a rip, and that's a lot of the reason why he moved on to another genre, country.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, I just spent, I'm so tired from this, but I did a 4-day run with Benton. The lead singer, his name is Eric Dunitz. He was in a band called The Great Dismal, I think. And then Mac Powell from Third Day. Okay. And it was
I never heard of that last guy you mentioned.
I know, man. Like,
Who's that
the
guy?
dude, I can tell you now, the dude is, number one, a legend, and vocally he is unbelievable. Like, I ran front house for that whole tour, and sweet sweet dude, very humble, very awesome. It was a very good experience. But something that kept on coming up on this tour, because, this was a country tour. This was not a Christian tour. It wasn't promoted that way. And every songwriter talked about, at some point, like, they had to write other songs. Like, it just had to happen, and, getting back to the Christian music business side of things, sometimes, it's okay to be outside of that and just develop yourself who you are, and arguably, I'm going to tell you now, my favorite Christian music has always been the more indie stuff anyway.
It's always done at the Bomb House too, isn't it?
Well, around here it seems to be. I don't know, but I do think we're seeing it nationally too. I think we see it in the worship culture with the big churches. I think the West Coast has a sound, right? I think Australia has a sound. I think Georgia, Atlanta has a sound. Elevation has a sound, and I think that's cool. I hear certain, like, I feel like the West Coast stuff is starting to sound a lot more like Nashville over the years. To me, it always felt more raw. Maybe am I wrong on this?
No,
like it just.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it just felt more raw, like the stuff that was coming from the West Coast. To me, it sounds super. It's getting super commercial.
Yeah.
But back to what you were saying, though, Paul. Like, I think, we all have aspirations. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did not know what my aspirations were when I wanted to get into music, other than I loved it, and I was just a nerd about it. But getting back to, like, how unique you are and how you approach things, I think is a great example that people really need to hear. Like, hey, here's a guy that's a pastor, been there 18 years, and you're doing music for your church.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's more of a success than some dude that wrote whatever many hits and is sitting at home doing nothing, wishing he was plugged into something more than what he did. Well,
and I would say that I fell into that by the grace of God. And what I mean is that if I wasn't working for a church, if I wasn't pastoring and I was somehow trying to make it in music, there would be an emptiness, because essentially I would have no outlet for serving Jesus with music other than getting invited to some church to do it. Maybe and all three of us have been in this bucket of like $50 on a Tuesday night, 250 miles away from your house, not necessarily how you want to live, but I'm blessed in that I have an outlet to do it. And so, a couple of things that I would challenge people about, I'll say one, and then I'll kind of go off in a different direction on the other. One is that I think so often people that want to make it in music forget, especially, and I'll couch this in the Christian, and Jimmy, you're doing a great job with this. Ricky, you do this as well. But they look somehow to go, if I'm not on the stage at Passion, I'm not really making it. To where we want to come back and say, all right, that can be a dream and an aspiration, but there are, especially where we are, there's a church across the street from a church, in your neighborhood, your where you live, that would love for you to pour your talent and bless those people, and to not hold that back or somehow be above it. Somehow be like, well, I can't play to those people. There's only 75 people in that church. Well, there's 75 people that you could be blessing. So that's one part of it. The other thing that I would feel like is, man, if you're like me, and I think I've sold literally dozens of albums, like we said. There was a moment in time where someone as a songwriter, I was kind of like, I can keep doing this music for forever and sell 25 copies, or I can do something to raise awareness for somebody else. And so, because I'm blessed to be at a church that they pay me, I can record music and then put that music behind some other ministry, whether it's a ministry in Africa. Right now I'm doing a more local ministry, which is here in Alexander County, the prison ministry. I still work with them. I'm going to go volunteer with them on Friday. And I give them boxes of my CDs to either give away or to sell for fundraisers or stuff like that, because then there's like this second level of the people that you reach for Jesus. And again, I would say I'm blessed because I'm not spending right now my personal money. I did for a long time. But but think about it more like ministry, not like your dream to make it in Nashville. And I think if you never make it in Nashville, you still have the blessing of having touched so many lives, regardless of what happens.
Absolutely, man. I love that. That is crazy. I'm starting to spin my own wheels.
But you're saying things that people need to hear. Like, so if you're listening to this, right, and you're an aspiring worship leader, even a guitar player or a drummer, and we're always going to motivate you to go out and pursue your goals. But if sometimes you need to humble yourself and serve where you're at. And I could tell you from experience, I've seen plenty of people come into what you would consider the ideal perfect situation and flounder. Because they realized that it's work.
Well, and also,
right?
Also we're sinful. Like, we can come into the perfect situation and just screw it up because we're sinful.
Absolutely. So, but we want to motivate people to serve where you're at. And I get asked so many times about especially from leadership about, hey, you know anybody that leads worship or anything? I know y'all are out there, because most of y'all are singing on YouTube, but you won't go. So, serve. That's about the best way I can tell you.
No doubt. And I mean, and you touched on something, and I would say 10 times over is that, man, is first, before you do any of this, just take a hard look in the mirror. And when you start talking about pride, self-centeredness, arrogance, ask God the tough questions, just to be like, God, is that me? Is that me? Because, man, like, I was so fortunate early on in my ministry, back when I was in seminary doing music, saw this guy, was working with him, thought he was amazing, and got into actually a ministry relationship with him. And he turned out to be the biggest self-centered jerk I've ever met. And as I was having the revelation that he was a huge self-centered jerk, this very small voice of the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, you're like 2 steps from that, you realize, right? And that was such a beautiful smack in the face that I needed. Don't get me wrong, I haven't figured out the pride, self-centeredness thing. I still am a jerk on that, but still. We all deal with that. So I'm going to move the conversation a little bit. I want to talk to you about how, what's your worship team like right now? What kind of instrumentation you're running? How do you do all that stuff? I'll tell you, philosophy-wise, I'll say maybe y'all, because I want to hear what you guys think about this. I think maybe there's two camps of where you run that with. One would be, and I think everybody uses Planning Center, and so one would be Planning.
We all use
One would be
Planning Center.
Planning Center, by the way, if you don't know what Planning Center is this kind of invitational social media where you send it out to people that are in your community for scheduling for different instruments. And it's not
just for music, it's for everything. Literally the whole production.
Right, for sure. The Panthers are using it to find receivers for this next year.
They need to do
that.
That and protect Cam. Those are the 2 things they need
we won't talk about the Dolphins.
We can talk about sports. No. We can talk about sports. I'm okay with that.
But I think within Planning Center, you have one where you have this just kind of a rotation of, it could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 different people that you just kind of rotate in and out. And so you might walk in not knowing who's going to be the drummer, keyboard, guitar, bass, vocalist. And then I think you have the other where you have, for me, long-term wise, and I think you would have been this way had you and Mike stayed around. You wouldn't be like, I wonder who's playing the drums this Sunday.
Yeah,
it's Mike. We're not worried about that. So,
Mike is Jimmy's brother.
Mike Atkins.
FYI.
He's locked up in jail right now. Y'all pray for him. Just kidding. He's not.
Listen, that sucker's going to be here soon.
Yeah, he's leading worship in Charlotte.
Yeah, he'll be here with us soon.
But so for me, ours is more the long-term relationship.
Volunteer base.
Yep. Everybody that's on the team has been there a minimum of 10 years.
What?
So A minimum of 10 years. I'd say with
Right
maybe
on.
the exception of Brandon, and that's more like maybe
Okay.
eight years.
Let's talk about Brandon.
Brandon
Scott Church, right?
Brandon, somewhere along the way, Eddie Van Halen stopped
Dude, okay.
and laid his hand
Brandon,
on that
I don't know if
kid.
Brandon's ever going to hear this, but we're going to talk about Brandon.
He is ridiculous.
First time I think you brought him here, right?
Yes, sir.
Did he come? I think he came and hung out. He has a band. I don't know. I know he's working on guitars now and teaching guitars, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's a free plug for Brandon.
Yep.
But that dude can play the freaking guitar. Like when he plays the guitar, there's smoke from the neck.
Yeah, no doubt.
He still has his 5150s, right?
Yes.
He's a Van Halen fan,
Yes.
but he's more than that.
Which is totally awesome because he's 20 years younger than me, maybe not 20, 15, and yet musically we're of the exact same ilk.
That dude can play the crap out of the guitar.
Wow.
It's
So-
unbelievable talent. Yeah.
So we don't, and it's not like we have only one person that can play the instrument. We have
Yep.
multiple people, but typically we have a main person, and then they have a backup.
Gotcha.
And occasionally we'll run into the situation where the main person and the backup all can't be there, and then every week I spend about 2 hours with our youth praise band, and I'm not.
So how
just,
many members like?
Oh my gosh, the youth
and the
praise
youth-
band is like Hillsong.
The praise
We've
band.
got 45 drummers on the stage, and
Hillsong is
no,
a huge band.
So,
yeah, it's
so
big.
okay, so if I'm if I'm in 7th or 6th grade, hypothetically, and I show any interest,
Yeah,
what do you do with that student?
you would come on Wednesday night early. We're going to meet for about a half an hour and talk about the biblical point of view for worship.
So if it's
Yeah.
a dude, be like, listen, you're not here to bang chicks.
That's first. Not
Is that
only
number
that,
one on the list?
not only that, but I mean, like, it's just kind of like we just talk about all kinds of stuff about
Yeah.
leading worship from a biblical perspective. We also talk about just being that the best worship practice you can ever do is what you do at home.
Yep.
And then
Yes.
come prepared.
Yep.
So and then we go rehearse for about an hour.
So do you do lessons with these guys or these kids?
Ish.
Okay.
We work. I've got two other adults at our church that work with us as well. One, we have a sweet lady that works with our singers, just on trying to find harmony.
So do you
all that kind of stuff?
So when you have a student come through the team, they go through college, all the good stuff. Do you have any that come back and eventually serve at the church?
Yes. So that's kind of where it's way more relationship driven.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And long term investment.
That, in my opinion, is probably the healthiest situation I've heard
Oh
in
yeah,
this area.
yeah.
Would you agree?
I definitely would. I think most kids, they have the same American dream,
Yeah.
and that is, I get out of the house, I go to college, I find out what I'm going to do, I get a job somewhere, preferably somewhere that's not here that I want to go. But if you have a relationship that's solid based on like a faith-based thing, and they start to see earlier than college.
Yep.
That what they're putting into this community is more important than any money they could make.
Yep.
Then coming back and being not just like, I stay here because mom and dad live here, but like I come back
contributing.
because there is something going on in the spirit realm here in this area, and I need to be part of it.
Yeah.
I think that's rad, man.
That is cool.
Every
Paul.
now and again,
I love it.
that happens, and you end up raising up somebody to replace you.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about worship leadership just for a second.
Let's do it.
So one of the things, and Jimmy, are you 30?
I'm almost 34.
34.
Yeah.
So and Ricky's 42.
Yep. Old
so,
dude.
So Ricky and I are of the generation where we were in worship wise, we were like the vanguard of contemporary worship. Like there was nobody teaching.
There was
any of that.
there was a time where I know personally we were told no electric guitars
Right.
on stage. That's why I played bass.
Yeah.
And we would do youth. We would do whatever we wanted, but adult church is what we would call it. No electric guitars.
Well, and so who, like when so Jimmy, as like worship leader now or leading worship, who is it that you learned how to lead worship from?
I actually learned from my dad.
From your dad.
Yeah. Years ago when Mike learned how to play drums,
Yeah.
I didn't. I wanted to play something, So I ended up doing Latin percussion.
Yeah.
All things. I got like bongos and congas and all those fun things. And Dad would lead our youth group with a guitar, and then that band built up around him. And then one day he just was like, "Okay, peace out, Jimmy, you're in charge." And I was like, "Holy no." But yeah, like I was probably in that first generation that grew up knowing that bigger churches and rock bands were used as mainstays for some people. You know, I knew that there were churches that existed that would only have a piano and like I said, accordion, almost an organ.
Yep.
Sometimes there was an accordion.
Yeah.
The
But-
Polish polka.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm sure that church is still out there right now.
probably so.
With Weird Al.
But you know,
Weird
like,
Al's
I was talking to
leading
my dad
worship at
about that.
church. Okay.
I was talking to my dad about it the other day about my generation, and I'm not just talking like millennials, but I'm talking about my age bracket has grown up knowing that those kinds of worship teams exist. So there was no vanguarding. There was no
Yeah.
there was no like trying to figure out how we can let this happen. It's happening.
It's happening,
We're
yeah.
just going to go to the places that it is.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So you went to a lot of winter jams.
I never went to a winter jam.
Really?
No.
I had
never
friends that did.
But I
had
did
friends
go to like straight up concerts.
Yeah.
Back when Audio A was really
Oh my
hitting
God,
it
I
big,
love that band.
You know,
Audio Adrenaline, baby.
Yeah, and then you know you'd get those.
Yeah.
My dad got all those. What was it called? There was like a big
Free CDs.
Yeah, the big packets of
Yes.
CDs.
Okay.
that
Back
were-
in the
Oh,
day,
yeah.
they would send samplers to
Yeah.
pastors
Yeah.
at churches.
Yeah.
Because it was a promotional item. So, oh man, we
I can't
grabbed
remember
those all
what the
time.
company was.
What was the?
But he used
what
to
was the
hand me
company
all
that
of
did the videos? Do you remember the videos?
One was like Wow Worship. There was like
Okay,
Yeah, that
Wow
was
Worship
one.
and then
stuff.
there was one that would do like Christian rock bands,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Frontline. I can't remember the
Yeah.
videos, but I would get them. Like
Yeah.
that was the only way to watch
Yeah.
like Christian rock videos.
And that's how I like picked up
Music.
on certain sounds and realizing, hey, I want to do that.
Well, I mean, like think about it. Church is like a perfect gig. You get to play every weekend, almost every weekend,
There's a ton more grace for your
Yes.
screw ups.
a lot more
and
grace.
you can develop. Like
Yeah,
you,
for sure.
Like church. I mean, think about how many mainstream artists like develop through church.
Yeah.
And I'm talking from the 50s, the 60s, all the way up. I mean, it's just
I actually heard a story from Chris Tomlin that when Giglio found him, he was leading worship behind a straight mic stand, and he had all the lyrics to his song set on a piece of paper, but it was song per sheet. And he would just move the mic in the front of the next sheet as he
Wow.
went down the set list.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
thinking, you know, later on, as I've become more, I don't want to say professional, even though that might be
seasoned.
just seasoned.
Seasoned.
Yeah,
Seasoned.
like
Grizzled.
better at it.
Yeah.
Grizzled.
And as a worship pastor, you have to like take into account somebody took a shot with me. You know,
Yeah.
they gave me a shot at this when I sucked real bad.
Yep.
And I can't impose these new
But bro,
rules of like
do
you
you-
got to be so good
like-
before, you know.
Eddie Van Halen or whoever, John Mayer did not come out.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't playing that way
Yeah.
at 12 years old.
And that goes
You know?
back to your relational like approach to starting a band is, you know, if we create a relationship, then I don't care if you messed up that chord. We'll fix that later.
Yeah.
But if we can continue talking about how important it is that you're doing this, then
Well,
we're building something
I
that
think-
lasts.
I think even at my level, like the studio level, I still run across young people that still need to develop what they're doing.
Sure.
Because in the studio world is very different, you know, than the live world, music. But if I can help develop somebody, even if somebody's older, I don't care, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if we're not developing people, we're doing something wrong.
Well, and too, and you can also you use your atmosphere of whatever your rehearsals like, whatever your time off stage is like, and whatever even just how you interact with each other in worship communicates not only so much to one another, but it communicates a lot to your congregation.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, because I remember when we first started doing Daggone, I keep hitting this mic.
That's okay.
When we first started doing it, like, if you're 1 week, like your second guitar player can't show up, and you're like, what? This whole thing's just gonna suck now, and you realize that, like, it, not to sound cliche, but man, if the Holy Spirit's not in it, you could have 9,000 people on your band, and it doesn't really matter. And so it's the whole thing of, like, do you love each other? Are you there for each other? Is there grace for whenever stuff happens? Is there care? And man, don't get me wrong, bro. Yeah. I have been through it with people on the worship team.
Yeah, there's always listen, man. There's musicians. There's going to be drama.
Oh my gosh,
sure.
There's
human beings,
but but Jimmy, you have a perspective. Like, how many people are on your team on a Sunday morning?
We've recently grown a little, but I'm
still
in the
Drew playing with you.
Yeah, Drew and Seth Gray.
These are brothers.
Yeah, they're in a band with me now.
They play the smack out of their instruments.
Yeah.
So
we have, like, this really weird
it's cool though.
Fusion of bluegrass and rock.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Going on at our church. And it really works.
Yeah.
It's strange.
And y'all are doing what works for y'all.
And it's not even about a sonic thing. It's not even about, like, what works, instrumentally.
You're just doing you.
We love Jesus.
You're doing you.
And we want to worship together.
I can give a perspective from a big church mentality, right? Because you would think, a lot of things I hear, like, when people ask me about, you play at Elevation, you play at New Spring, whatever. How are you treated, or blah 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 blah. I've never been treated better.
Yeah.
And at an organization that big, with, I don't know how many musicians are on that team. Number one, they are the most talented musicians I think I've ever been around. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter, right? Like, skill level doesn't matter on that team.
Right.
Your attitude matters. Your heart matters.
Yeah.
That's what they value. And they really, Wade Joy, they do these events. They keep on changing the names, but basically we meet a couple of times a semester as a team. And some of the best constructive things I've been able to take home have been from those events, and it's me getting together with our friends and all these guys, and we all have so much in common. Now, even at a church that big, we don't see each other all the time, right? And that's why it's so important. If you are at a big church, you need to plug in with your campus. Whoever the dudes are you're with, or the ladies you're with, week in and week out, that's where you need to be the leader and be the example, right? And develop. And so even at a smaller level, mid-sized level, big level, it doesn't really matter.
It's the same principle.
It's still church.
Yep.
It's still church, and the same principles apply.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, a lot of things, rumors get around and all that stuff. And in reality, I'm telling you right now, there's nothing special. It doesn't matter where you are, what size church, you're going to bust your butt. You're going to get there early. You need to set up. You need to be prepared. That doesn't ever change.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't ever change. And I just think things get misconstrued sometimes. But I think it's important for us to talk about this kind of stuff, because I think there are pastors and I think there are leaders out there that struggle with their musicians, and they struggle with how to keep a culture, right? In an environment.
Well, so I have it probably easier in that I am going to lead the worship, and then I'm going to preach the message right afterwards. So there doesn't have to be this, like, dynamic between what's the worship leader going to do and what the pastor's going to do. So I would say pastors, it's imperative, and part of it was I would say to pastors, talk to your worship leaders, talk with your worship leaders, don't talk at them. Yep. I've seen some worship leaders just be crushed because their pastors don't understand worship.
Well, they're creatives, man.
Yeah.
I think,
totally.
Creative people do not react. They react very differently.
Yeah.
Well, and then another, just, this is more just kind of on the lines of the red list of things do not do is, like, if that person shows up to your church Sunday morning and you lay eyes on them for the very first time, and your band needs an extra guitar player, and they come up to you and they're like, hey man, I'm coming new to your church and I play guitar. Can I be in your worship team? As bad as you may need a guitar player, you need to wait for that dude
horses, man.
to become involved in your community, because those are the scariest people you will ever meet in your entire freaking life.
It's so true, man.
Yeah,
So
that does
true.
happen. That does happen.
And that's kind of like one of the things that we do at our place is people come up and say, I'm looking for a place where I can serve. Their story might be, I've been locked into a church for years and they just won't use me. And so I have to instigate questions.
Yeah.
Like kind of like The Walking Dead.
It's a good perspective though.
Like maybe they're not using you in a capacity that you want.
Yeah.
But are you serving somewhere else?
Yeah. That's always weird.
If there's willingness there, then we can work on that, you know. But you do, I totally agree. I tell people right off the bat, 6 months of community, and that does whittle down. I don't wait 6 months.
I remember,
but I do that to see if they freak out.
I remember when
Amen,
I remember when
no
I
doubt.
took some time off the road, and me and my wife were adjusting to a home church. Trying to find a home church, which was a struggle for us for a while. But even then, when I would visit, I didn't want to play. Like, I just wanted to chill. I just wanted to chill and enjoy the service and enjoyed, be there with my family, you know. And then eventually, I would help, but it was like I was always more concerned about just hanging with my family. At the time.
Well, and the theoretical blessing of having an additional instrumentalist or singer does not outweigh the potential heartache and pain you could have of inviting
do not
somebody
sell your
sketchy.
soul. Do not sell your soul
absolutely.
for that
Phew.
amazing drummer.
And this is where being a called to ministry pastor comes into play.
Well,
you have to use discernment
and being in prayer.
Just being totally like your needs for somebody in a team. Yeah, those have to take a back seat to whatever God says. But at the same time, these people are coming in asking for a Band-Aid.
See, y'all are worried about their spiritual health. I'm worried about their gear. I'm like,
Yeah, this is true.
I'm like, listen,
yeah.
that Schecter guitar ain't gonna be played here, son.
except for the fact that when the person walks in with $40,000 worth of gear and they say to you, I just can't find a church to play at, you want to be like, probably not your gear. You just may be an idiot. You stop worshiping the devil.
See, I'm too busy looking at the gear. Y'all are like, man, does he love Jesus? I'm like, does he love Strats? What does he think about a telly?
Is that synonymous, Strats and Christ?
Does he think Kemper Amp Profiler is good? Does he think that? I don't know. But again, we're providing, I know I'm making a joke about it, but it is important. Like, there's got to be a balance, and I think it's important for people to know what the thought process is if you are visiting somewhere, or if you are wanting to audition for a team. That's a new culture thing that I think that started happening the last 10 years. We actually have auditions, and people are like, oh my God, there's auditions. Yeah, there's auditions. It's awesome. Yeah. It's good. Like, it's good to see that kind of stuff.
Sure.
This isn't Little League indoor soccer where just little Joe Bob can show up and play, and there has to be some sort of a standard, I think, and not just spiritually, but skill-wise. I think there needs to be something.
Yeah, there's a good guidance there.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like how long have you played?
Yeah,
Have you ever played in front of, have you ever used click track? Have you ever been in front of people when you've played?
And it's, if anything, Paul and Jimmy, it's like, we gotta, like, it's our job to develop, right? Yeah. If we're not developing, I think we're doing something wrong. And Paul, I think you've done, pretty incredible job at that. And you're in a situation that even big churches in our area struggle with. They struggle with that.
I think so often though when you think about the word or the phrase disciple making, I think so often you think about that in such this context of like this small group accountability, we're memorizing scripture and yada, 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 which totally, yes. But I think as a worship leader, there's also disciple making.
Yes.
I think because essentially that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I got you.
The churchy word is we're making disciples of Jesus Christ who just happen to rock the drums or sing like crazy or play and string the instrument or play the keys or whatever.
I got you. So you want to do question time?
Yeah. Let's
Okay, so how do you
call
want to
it
introduce
like
this
bombs away. Let's call it bombs away.
bit? Bombs away. Go ahead, Jimmy. This is you, baby. Sound effect.
So this
We're not
is
that
this
funky.
is just a relatively, or should be theoretically, quick segment where
Wait,
we
can I
ask. Can you play?
This is the first time I want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You-
buddy.
Okay, I don't know.
Here we go.
where
Paul, you first.
I'm
You have
going
to
to
answer in
ask
Spanish.
3 random questions.
You know more Spanish than I do, Paul.
Well, actually,
golly.
two random questions that deal with our guest,
Okay.
Oh no.
and
All
then
right.
the last one is always going to be where was your favorite taco?
Oh God. Well.
I know we already know yours.
Well, not everybody.
Not
Okay.
everybody here, but we'll find out today.
Okay.
But the first question is this: what was, like, make, model, whatever, your first instrument that you played?
So I stole my mom's Alvarez acoustic guitar.
Okay.
So, but then the first one that I bought or was bought for me was a piece of junk.
POS.
It was the 80s version. Epiphone came out of the Strat with the hockey stick headstock.
Oh, I remember
man.
that.
And it was like a metallic silver.
Was that like a shredder? It was a shredder epiphone,
It was
right?
theoretically that,
Yeah.
yes. And then
Dude, that's pretty dope.
no, it was awful. It was a terrible guitar. And the guy, there
Think
was
if
a
you just held on
there
to
was a sound man. There was a sound man at our church, and he said, "Come over to my house this afternoon." And like I had mowed like 6 lawns, so that was $30. And he's like, "How much money do you got?" And I was like, "I got $30." And he brought out this like electric blue vinyl puff topped custom.
Oh my God.
KUSTOM, remember that?
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
things?
yeah.
Solid state bass amp
Really?
with a Radio Shack 212 attached to it. And, he's like,
And that was your first amp?
$30. Oh my gosh. I sounded like I was playing in Bootsy Collins' band, but with a guitar.
That's pretty sick, though, man.
It was
Did you keep
horrible.
that custom? You didn't keep the custom, huh?
No, and I think somebody gave me like $25 for it a few years later.
Really?
You lost,
I lost $5.
you lost $5.
See, my first guitar was a Spanish guitar, like a
classical?
I think like a family member, I think, had given it to us, or it had my name on it, and that's my brother.
The guitar had your name on it.
Yeah, it had
Like
Ricky,
Elvis?
had Ricky on it. Well, my dad's a huge Elvis fan, but that guitar was with me wherever I went.
Yeah.
Like if I was watching TV, I was learning the commercials.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
On that guitar. But I think my first electric guitar that I saved up for was a PV Predator Strat.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. I think. I
You
don't
and
know.
Adrian Vandenberg were
Because my
rocking
dad
out.
had gear, right? My
Yeah.
dad had gear, so I would, but he
Yeah.
was like careful about his gear. He was like, he didn't want me to destroy it, and I was like, yeah, I need to get a electric guitar. What was your first, Jimmy?
Well, we've already established that I was
Oh yeah,
Congo and
percussion.
bongo.
I was playing salsa music.
He was
for
playing
people.
La Bamba.
I was the widest Latino musician
That's
you'd
funny.
ever
So
seen.
that was the first thing you bought? You bought like
no,
all this
that
Latin
was all
percussion?
bought for me just so I could, get into music.
Privileged.
The first guitar I ever played is actually out in the car right now, and it's an old Silvertone, like a Sears Roebuck
Dude,
catalog.
that's bad, eh?
Yeah. My Aunt Debbie
And you
got
still
it.
have it.
Yeah, she got it brand new when she was like 12 or something. So it's over 50 years old.
That's
There you
dope.
go. Good job, sir.
And then she handed it to my dad, whose guitar broke while he was in the middle of being in the band that we got the name from.
Wow.
And
Crazy.
so dad hands that off to me just to learn on. And
So
it was,
Silverton.
man, messed my hands up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is the
Action,
that bad?
like
Action,
4 feet
action
off the
was
fretboard.
like, it was like looking at a resonator, like
Yes.
those dobros with the strings way off.
I remember all my early gear, man.
Yeah.
But that's what you want to say to parents. You want to say, listen, I know it's driving you crazy that your kid won't put down the guitar or
Yeah.
your kid won't
But
put
it's
down.
important.
But that is the most like leaps and bounds that I learned.
Yep.
Like I'm so thankful my parents weren't. I mean, for the most part, they weren't like turn off that devil music. But I remember like learning Bringing on the Heartbreak, note for note by Def Leppard. You know, and be just so proud of that.
Yeah.
But you know, you have to just hold that guitar.
You do, man.
And play it, man.
You do,
I
and
love
you
Def
don't
Leppard.
know that in like 20, 25 years,
If it's gonna be worth anything.
if it's going to be
yeah,
worth
so parents,
something.
don't
No
throw
doubt.
away your kids' guitars
throw it
because you
away.
never know.
Like, there's
Unless it says Epiphone, then
Okay, then
all
it's
out the
like
window.
firewood.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, so question 2.
Question number 2. What is the name of the first band you were in?
Oh God,
Man, you know.
I have to think about this.
So again, this is 2-part.
I can't remember.
The first solo, you know, I remember I wanted to be a Christian rapper.
Uh-oh.
And my name was MC Gravity because I was always getting down.
MC Gravity.
Dude, what happened? So what would happen was you could go and you could buy like the CD with whatever the Snoop Dogg or whatever, and then there would be like the instrumental track.
Yeah.
So I'll go to my
Yeah.
college group and be like, "Yo, throw that instrumental track on there," and I'll get down
So
with some
would you
lyrics
say,
on it.
Would you say you were West Coast influence? Maybe?
No, I was very East Coast. No, so it's East Coast for life. But no, the first like band name that we had. This is funny too. The Virginia Baptist Missionary Alliance, or that sounds like something from Star Wars. With lightsabers. They wanted to put together a band to go to the Czech Republic to play like mission outreach stuff. And this was not long after the wall had come down and it had begun to be decommunistized or whatever, communistic. And so they threw us they threw us over there, and it was me, 2 other people from seminary, and then a kid from my youth group. And I'm like 25 years old at the time. And so he was the kid that was our drummer, was really into this band out of Richmond called the Agents of Good Root. Or Good Roots or something. They're kind of
Yeah.
a jam man, Dave Matthews.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so he was like, "Yeah, we all threw names in the hat," and he put in Agents of Good Faith. So that they called us that, and then we didn't realize that like anytime you go to a former communist country and you put agents on anything,
Oh,
they
boy.
immediately think that they're going to be like hauled off and questions
Oh,
or whatever.
my gosh.
So no one would come to the shows because of that. So and we were awful.
Oh my God.
Bro, we were
So wait. It was a
terrible.
Christian band
It was a Christian band
called Agents of Faith.
of Good Faith.
Of Good Faith.
And we played like the most rock version of Lord, I Left Your Name on High.
Oh,
and
boy.
everybody
Stuff
was
like
too
that.
afraid to visit because they thought they were going to get hauled off
Yes,
to a
we
concentration camp.
played at
That
a,
is awesome.
at a town square one time where a dude ran up to the stage. It was a concrete stage, 5 foot tall, with a full bottle of beer, and I mean like a Czech bottle of beer that looked like a 2 liter of Sprite, and smashed it on the stage, and broken glass like just hit us all, and we were like, "We're missionaries."
That is so good, man. That is so
So
good.
their first
Oh,
band.
boy.
That's not, dude. That's a good story, man.
That's
That's much better than mine.
Scary
Mine,
story.
MC
my
Gravity.
first official band, I think, we were called Exit Eden.
Exit Eden, baby.
And that's what
Double E.
I just joined that band, and then we just started recording, and then that morphed into different things. So,
Yeah.
what about
See,
you, Jimbo?
no, hold on. So that is that Exit Eden hair right there over there in that picture.
Okay, so Paul is pointing to a picture. It's the engagement picture of me and my wife.
Which, by the way,
We were
if I was your wife, if I was Tyson's parents, I'd be like, well, my daughter just got engaged to a Satan worshiper.
well, actually, it wasn't really that. Like, her mom, my last name's Rodriguez. Her mom, kept on fixing us,
where he
burritos.
from? Where he from?
Oh,
Tacos.
man.
Like, every time I would come over, it was always like burritos. And I had to tell Tyson, I was like, tell your mom I'm
Do you
Cuban.
personally know the Chihuahua from Taco Bell?
But so the picture he's referencing is when I had really long hair.
Look,
We're going to.
luxurious.
I think this is the point where we say we'll put this in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll have to put this in. I'll have to
It'll
somehow.
be on the site.
Yeah, we'll have to put a link to it. But it was our engagement picture. But I had long hair. I'm bald now. I started losing my hair at such a young age. I just shaved it. But
handsome man.
yeah, that was definitely Exit Eden.
Exit
hair,
Eden, baby.
4-man furnace.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I cut it. I think I cut it the year we got married because I remember my hair was thinning, but Tyson was still too nice, and she was just like, "Hey, baby, your hair's not thinning." Oh, it was thinning, and finally I was just like,
Bless it, man.
Bye.
It's all good, sir.
"Yep."
Yeah.
But all right, Jimbo.
My first band name, legit band name.
Okay.
We ran off copies of this poster prior to the concert
Okay, so
that I met you at.
that makes you official. Really?
Yeah, yeah. We called ourselves Temporarily Grounded for one show.
Was there a reason you
For
called
one show.
yourselves?
Yes, there was a huge reason to me.
Okay,
and
to you.
I didn't realize this
I have a
until like
feeling
years later.
There's
really.
another side to the story.
But
isn't
my favorite Christian band was a band called Down Here. Actually, Jason Germain from that
Yes.
band masters all of
Yes.
my stuff. You know.
Yep.
And I was really loved how simple it was down here. Like we are down here. You
Yeah.
know, we're down here on earth,
That
kind of thing.
That dude sounded like that singer was unbelievable.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
like
yeah.
Freddie Mercury.
Oh,
style.
Mark, yeah,
Yeah,
Mark,
yeah.
like crazy. So I was thinking, well, how do I not steal, but give a nod to my band, like
It's
to my
just temporarily
favorite band?
temporarily grounded.
They're down here. We're just temporarily grounded.
That's
you know, like
awesome.
it's the same thing.
That's awesome.
And well, it wasn't because afterwards
wasn't, 'cause
everybody
we
was like,
changed it.
"We hate this name. Let's not ever do this again."
That's pretty
So,
funny.
And then
yeah.
you went by Creed for a little while. And then-
we called ourselves Credo because we were really inspired by Creed. So
That's awesome.
just kidding. That's not true.
All right. Next question.
Last question. Where's your favorite taco from?
Man, you know, I would say mission trip to Guatemala.
Oh,
He's got us
oh,
beat already.
No, because it's honestly
that's
it's
legit.
it's a question mark.
Yeah.
So we show up to this place. It's one of the last days that we're there. Most everybody has been sick sometime during the trip. How it is when you go to Guatemala, and both ends are erupting. And I didn't really know that I wanted to eat.
Yeah.
And so we show up to this place, and I can read Spanish. I mean, I can speak Spanish, but a lot of this is in Quiche and these other like Indian dialects that they have.
Yep.
And they show up to this big giant steam table where there are black pots, and you basically are, here's your tortilla, and you just kind of point to whatever you're going to go in it. Well, the guy that was the translator like moved on with the beginning of our team, and I was like a little bit late walking in there, and I did not know. And so I just pointed to a couple things and crossed my fingers
Yeah.
and ate, and it was really
And it
great.
was, like,
It was
mind-blowing?
really good, but it was probably like alligator and parrot.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
Was it
So,
like a corn?
yes.
The tortilla was a soft
Yeah,
corn.
and it was kind of
Was it white or yellow?
thick yellow.
Oh my god.
It was a little bit thicker.
It's good, man.
Kind of thing. But it hit your stomach like a cannonball and just kind of hung out down there for a while.
Yeah.
That's sort of what you expect, though.
Yeah, no doubt.
The best food hangs around as a buddy,
Yeah,
It does.
like a buddy.
absolutely. Well, listen, I'm very biased, and for y'all that know, I frequent a place. In fact, the owner of this establishment will be a guest on our podcast.
In fact, we ate there
We ate there
an hour
today.
ago.
But it's called Mountain Burrito. It's in Morganton, North Carolina, and it is it's an integral part of my life
Yeah.
because I'm there almost every day.
Yeah.
I know that guy's sending his kid through college because of you.
Probably. That's the joke. Listen, that place is I don't want to say too much now because Brian, the owner, will be on the podcast, but it's just, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a perfect place for me.
Between you and Brian, you are Morganton.
Maybe.
So-
There's other things happening here.
Really?
We got like a nut house. We got Broughton, right?
Holy cow.
We got the nut house.
And we're increasing in nuttiness because y'all just opened up like a 8 million square foot new wing on that place.
yes, we did.
Wow.
Listen, my favorite story, I think a couple of years ago, some dude got naked and jumped on our Sonic
This sounds
and
about
like
right.
was freaking
Jumped
out
on,
about the
like,
election.
the-
He was on the roof of our Sonic, whatever,
The restaurant.
fast food Sonic
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
restaurant, yelling about the election.
He jumped on top of our restaurant.
Yes, yes. He was on top of Sonic screaming, and like I just glanced by the article, and I was just like, "Oh,
That
from
seems about
Broughton.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Well, what about when you're from Raleigh and the high school you went to is called Broughton? Like I
Oh, wow.
went to Broughton High School and people are like, "When did you get out?"
Well, listen,
Sorry.
James Taylor came through Broughton, did his drug rehab there.
There's a claim to fame from
Yeah,
Morganton right there.
yeah. So there's
The great James
Taylor has some interesting
JT.
stories, and he credits that place for
The OG JT, right?
the original.
Yeah.
Well, dude, can you imagine being James Taylor's? I think he was 17 or 18 when he recorded for Apple. Like Apple, as in the record company the Beatles owned, not
Oh,
Apple the
yeah,
company.
yeah,
Can you
yeah.
imagine that?
No.
And that's when he got,
No.
he got in trouble with the drugs over there. And then,
Yeah.
But
Wow.
all right, Jimmy, what about your taco experience?
This it's becoming a little less touristy now, but years ago, we went up and had a gig up in like the Lake Junaluska area.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah,
That's the Methodist Mecca right there, baby.
It is, man.
Methodist represent.
And it, like just driving on the property, you're like, I just know I'm going to have communion before I leave.
And John Wesley may meet you there.
Yeah, he might.
Charles Wesley.
That would be
I
awesome.
had a vision of Wesley. But we ran to Asheville one day, and we went to the like original White Duck
Oh yes,
taco.
I like
and
white duck.
you know, for anybody who doesn't know, they're like kind of taco truck inside a building kind
Yep.
of thing going.
It's very good.
And they got tons of different. I mean, things I would never put on a taco.
Yeah, man.
And
M&Ms.
and the one, yeah, I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm gonna try it.
Like dessert tacos is the new thing.
Man,
Well,
that's
I'll
great.
I'll talk to Mountain Burritos over soon.
Heck yeah! But the Thai peanut
I've had
taco,
that. Loved it.
man,
Yep.
I would never have believed that corn tortilla could be so good with
That's
chicken
awesome.
and Thai peanut.
Well, the taco, in my opinion, is like the perfect food. You can put anything.
Yeah,
Breakfast,
it's just wrapping
lunch,
up whatever you
dinner.
want to eat.
True.
Yeah, man.
That's very true.
Yeah,
It is perfect. It is
while
perfect.
nodding at an entire culture. You know,
Yes.
like it's amazing.
It is. It is. Well, listen, Paul, I love you, sir.
I love you, sir.
Well,
And
I love you
appreciate your
too.
time.
Love
Thank
you
you.
too, Jimmy. Thank
This
you, sir.
won't be the last time you'll be on here. I definitely want you back. The focus of this podcast, will always be about, our life in North Carolina.
Cackalack.
Yeah,
Our
man.
faith, and music. We're always going to touch on this stuff, but I think as a podcast, I think it's important to highlight people doing the church thing right.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And if I run across somebody that lives on that side of town or is in Hickory, there's a handful of places that I will reference, and I always reference you
I appreciate that,
and what
sir.
you guys are doing at that church.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm like skeptical. I really am. I have become very careful of what families I send where, because I'm honestly scared sometimes. But there are very good people out there, and there are healthy churches, and you are one of them.
Well, all Jesus, sir. All Jesus all the time,
It is.
always.
Yep.
is.
But we love you, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
But,
Thanks so much for having me.
So let's do some plugs. I know you do. I know you hate this. I know you're going to hate this. But your music's on Apple. I'm not going to say what
Yeah,
he's
we
doing
won't
right now.
reference that, yeah.
But your music is on iTunes, right? Apple Music.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
CD Baby. You can listen to pretty much everything for free on YouTube.
So there is one
Spotify.
song though. I found a song. I was going through some Dropbox files, and you did a Christmas EP
Yes,
while
sir.
back.
Yes, sir.
And there was a song that we did. We did some bells on it. What
Right.
was the name of that song?
It's just called the Christmas Anthem.
Christmas Anthem. That, I don't know why I came across this somehow, but that song came out so good. Like, I don't know. I think just the stars aligned.
You and I sat there and we went through bell sounds.
I remember.
For an hour.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then we
found
found one, and we were like, "Oh, okay,
made the song, made the
that
hook.
was cool." Yeah,
So,
bell songs.
Please support Paul's music. We've already heard it goes. He
it goes
donates it to ministry.
Forgiven Prison
Yep.
Ministry.
Yep. And obviously, if you're a newer family in this area, what side of town? Corinth at?
Corinth Reformed Church is in kind of the northwest side of.
And we
side of
totally
Hickory.
forgot
We're-
about talking about the sanctuary. But
We're across from Viewmont Elementary School, if that helps. We're diagonally
Okay.
across the street from them, and it's a big stone church.
yeah,
Stone. We
Beautiful.
got like a football field for a
it's
front
like
lawn.
one of the oldest buildings.
Looks very.
No, it's really not that old. Our we had a building downtown that burned down, and then in like
That was older?
1950 something they built that sanctuary.
Wow, it's beautiful.
It's very
a beautiful sanctuary.
cathedral
Old
esque.
school. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Because I know there's like choral concerts there and different things, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. yes,
So
sir.
anyway, and you can anybody find you on social media?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I lost my Twitter password and haven't figured it out in about 4 years.
I love
so
Twitter.
I just kind of gave up on that.
I've become pro Twitter the last couple of years.
We'll have all that in the show notes.
Yeah, we will get
There
that
you go.
information.
Sorry, sir.
Jimmy, where can we find you?
Oh, dude, JimmyAtkinsMusic.com.
Boom.
That's a big hub, and then I sell beard oil too.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Your beard's good.
Thank you.
The beard's always on point.
RuddyManBeard.com.
Yes, you were outnumbered. You got 2 red beards in here.
I shaved.
One
I
gray
shaved
beard.
like a week and a half ago. I'll have a beard.
And you know
My
what's
beard will
great?
be back in a week.
This season, that won't be the only time that it happens.
True.
Because we're going to have Mike in here.
Yeah, we will. So, if anybody wants to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Ricky Rodriguez. If you have any questions, comments, please let us know. Again, our goal is to have 6 episodes for the first season.
Yeah.
And we're going to be halfway through this week, but we're excited. We've already got the website ready. What's the website going to be called?
Welcome to the Bomb House. No.
Bomb House Podcast.
Edit that out.
Okay. What is it? BombHousePodcast.com?
It's BombHousePodcast.com.
Yeah. So, as of right now, I haven't even started promoting it yet, but we will be. And of course, we're not trying to monetize this. We're not trying to do any of that. Our goal is to simply to let you know about people like Paul.
Yeah.
And the people that are coming onto this podcast don't have any other motive than just to hang with us and talk with us and just give you a picture, give you a glimpse of what it's like to be in this area and to do what they do. But again, find us on bombhousepodcast.com. We'll be on Twitter. We'll be on Facebook. All that good stuff. Love you all. Peace.
From border to border, but know that this Carolina to the death. I need a session from Bomb House. Heard him say it under breath. Christian dudes with a mean swag, but we walk around like this Jericho. Laying down that audio, so no smoking in my studio. Sound coming through the stereo. How you feeling shook? Vertigo. All of this confidence, dripping finesse, hitting notes and falsetto. We love tacos, so let Ricky do his thing pronto. Finish this session today, he gon' hit you with the mix tomorrow. Produce, record, mix, master it. Sounding so dope that it gets your pastor lit. Hit after hit after hit after hit, hit after hit. Lickety split. What's that smell? Apple cinnamon. Ready man big, got it from Jimmy Jam. Grab the pen again, let me hear it back again. 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 Yeah. Let me hear it back again.